use the spotlight or what?
All right, welcome back everyone, and we all had a good meal and all feel refreshed for the second half of today's proceeding. I'm proud to introduce you to a lineup of speakers from Orica and Epiroc to lead you through a panel-like session and share their insights on accelerating the development of autonomous solutions through industry collaboration. So please welcome Mr. Nick Harrison from Orica to moderate the session, along with Mr. Ben Taylor from Orica, Ms. Camilla Spangberg, and Mr. Lars Bernquist from Epiroc, all the way in Sweden, who sits in the panel. And over to you, Nick.
Great, thank you very much. I'm just going to quickly bring up my screen to share for one moment.
Yep.
And brilliant. Thank you so much for having us today. So today we're going to run through a workshop and a bit of a panel discussion related to, I'll switch this over, sorry. Around accelerating the development of autonomous solutions through industry collaborations. And as you say, I'm joined here together with Ben, who's also from Orica, and two of our key counterparts, Camilla and Lars over at Epiroc. And we're going to try and tell a story about a identification of a problem that we both saw in the industry, and quite a lot of discussions with our mine and customers and mine partners as well, to help bring a sense of an approach of collaboration around how we actually build something together to bring it to market. So I'll get to introductions in a second, but what we want to take through is a little bit of a journey. We'll give some background and introduction to ourselves as well as our organization. Have a discussion around what we observed in the industry, specifically around mining, and how we then identified an opportunity and started to work on a product and bringing it to market in the form of a collaboration. Also, we're going to talk about the role that miners can play as part of this process, and certainly how that de-risks and accelerates the whole program. And then, as a bit of a case study in this one in particular, we'll give you a feel for also where it's come to and what will happen next. And then also what we think opportunities might exist elsewhere in the mining industry as well, to replicate some of the things that we've done. Also, really interested to hear from people in the audience as well. So as much as interactive as we can be as possible would be great. So please jump in and contribute to the conversation if you can. Alternatively, just drop a note into the text box, and Ben or Camilla and Lars will pick it up, and we can discuss that as well. So please don't be afraid to drop in comments or questions as we go along. So thanks again for having us. My name is Nick Harrison. I'm the Senior Manager for Services and Automation here at Orica. There's a bit of a blurb there, but really I started in Orica about 16 years ago as an engineer, but I've had a great opportunity to work through operations in civil tunnelling in Scandinavia, as well as global roles in marketing, product development, and commercialization. I was really excited and had the opportunity to work on this project and really establish our partnership with our customers and miners in this challenge. So I'm really interested in this topic around, really designing and taking products to market that really solve real problems, as well as doing it collaboratively, with both miners and other OEMs in the industry as well. So thanks again for having me, and I'll hand it over to the others to do a quick introduction of themselves as well, and start with you, Ben, if you want to give a brief intro.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for coming along today. My name's Ben Taylor. I'm a
You're
mining
coming
engineer
across
by
a little
background.
quiet, Ben. I don't know if it's just me.
Okay. Give me 2 seconds.
Ah.
Is that a little better? Okay, so yep, I'm a mining engineer by background. I actually only joined Orica relatively recently, mid last year. Prior to that, I've spent the last 14 or 15 years I guess, traveling around the world in different mining operations. I spent a lot of time up in the Mount Isa region, cutting my teeth as a graduate up at Mount Isa Mines, and then since then have had the opportunity to work all over the world in mining. My role, I guess, is specifically focused on the underground segment, and in a similar fashion to how Nick described, is identifying opportunities to go and develop real products and services and solutions that the industry actually needs and has a desire for, and figuring out how that we can make them scalable and getting them out there so that we can actually shift the way that we do work in underground mining. So that's me. Yeah, and thanks again. I'll hand over to Lars and Camilla.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Camilla Spånberg and I am the Global Product Manager for our face springing equipment and also for charging at Epiroc. I'm also privileged to be the project owner for the Avatel that we are developing together with Orica. And in my role, I'm actually responsible for the development of the product family. And I have been working for Epiroc or previous Atlas Copco for 18 plus years in different positions within R&D and marketing and also technical service.
Okay, first of all, my name is Lars Bergqvist, and first of all, for the audience, if you are a bit worried that we sit together, we actually live together, so we are obeying the COVID rules, so to say. I joined Epiroc 13 years ago, and prior to that, I had a long history in the Swedish mining and construction tunneling industry. The role in this project has been to sort of in the company I work as key customer manager, but also a business development leg. So it's about identifying customer needs and bring it home to Epiroc R&D department. Orica's interest in the WebGen technology, it really triggered us. So that was sort of the enabler and the starting point. So for me to bring that home to the company and try to get something going was pretty obvious. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. What I thought we would start with is we'd give a very brief introduction into who we are as far as our organizations go and where you might see some synergy. So it's to bring context into the conversation. So we'll shoot through it relatively quickly just to give a feel for our respective companies, and then we'll get into these discussional type topics around what we saw happening in the industry and still happening today. So to kick it off with Orica, Orica is a commercial provider of explosives into the mining industry, and we're the biggest one globally. We certainly have greater presence in some regions more than others. We certainly pride ourselves on our innovation as well. We try to really concentrate on the development of our core products and our core services to market, but also looking for new ways to bring value to our customers as well. So our aim, fundamentally, is to be that trusted partner of choice. We do that by creating and delivering mining and civil blasting and ground control solutions that really help miners be more productive and manage their critical risks. So we started we can trace our roots back to about 1874 in the Victorian goldfields. There's been quite a number of shifts around in various chemicals industries. Latest is in ICI, which was a British company, and then became Orica in the late 90s, and now one of the largest companies on the ASX. So the areas where we play, certainly we are highly concentrated in the mining market. So surface coal, metals, quarrying, underground. But also we have quite a lot of presence in the underground construction, surface construction, as well as oil and gas and agriculture, as we leverage our products like ammonium nitrate. We have a fairly consistent and solid history of innovation and trying to bring products to the market, and they're quite far-reaching in their applications. They've certainly become much broader in the last decade to 15 years, as we identify, like many others, a greater opportunity in digitization, automation, as well as some pretty clever things like magnetic inductance communication, which is where we come with the wireless. So we are certainly committed to our technology and innovation, and working collaboratively has been a big cultural focus as well, especially with our customers, but also, as an example here today is working with other partners in the industry as well. So we have a vision to transform how drill and blast is used to unlock mining value by utilizing digital automated technologies to create safer and more productive blasts. So we have technology centers that focus on these various elements around the world. We have here in Australia, at the foot of the Hunter Valley, also in the USA, in Denver, which had a huge role to play in developing this product with Epiroc. We also have wireless and electronic blasting systems developed through Canada, but then also a big presence in our hub in Sweden and Germany as well. So just to bring some context around where we think we're going to next, there is quite a strong focus in our digital footprint as well. We're looking for really data-driven optimization in the drill and blast segment. And there's a strong belief around these connection of both sensors and data acquisition, combining that with our ability to deliver these services is where we're going to find our niche. I'll just quickly come down. There's only 2 more slides on a bit of background. We certainly see the future as being quite integrated. I think we hear a lot of discussion around Industry 4.0 and digitization, but what that really translates to for us is actually a combination of being able to gather information, gather data, turn it into information, and getting it into the process to make meaningful decisions as they happen in real time. That is not, I think, going to be done by one supplier for the miner across the globe. So the role in which we play certainly can undoubtedly see that collaboration and working with the miners and saying what's best for their operation, as well as other METS plays in the industry, is certainly the future that we see being stitched together on the mining front. Lars mentioned it earlier. One of the big shifts that we've seen over the last few years has been a transition to wireless initiation. So WebGen is the brand for our wireless initiation. It started its commercial use in 2018. It had quite a R&D period before that, but since its launch, there's been over 1,700 blasts. And that is in the order of over 53,000 units have been blasted. So it's become very real very quickly. And we're now bringing out the 2nd generation of that quite quickly. So later in this year, we'll see, a more miniaturized and customized versions for various applications in underground and in surface. And as Lars mentioned, with wireless technology, that certainly opened up an opportunity for getting real with automation. So I hope that provides a very quick background in both Orica and where we've been applying some energy in the past to give some good context. So Lars, I might hand it over to you, and Camilla, if you want to give it a quick counterpart with Epiroc?
Yes, for sure. As it says on this slide, we are Epiroc, your productivity and sustainability partner. Can you please change slide?
Yeah.
I don't think I have control, do I?
No, that's right. I'll try and keep up with you, Lars.
Okay, good. As a company, Epiroc, we have a long history in the background, actually 148-year-old. As you can see here, the company was founded 1873, basically based off the Swedish mining and tunneling industry. And with then the company was Atlas Copco. Atlas Copco, as you can see, in the early 1900s, launched a pneumatic rock drill that later went on to the jet-led and Swedish method. A part of that was actually compressor business. Then for Atlas Copco, that part of the business grew really and became huge over the years. So if we jump ahead to 2018, you can actually see the company made a split. So Epiroc was split out from Atlas Copco with a clear ambition and goal to grow. And also you can see the three lines on the arrow. Ambition was to grow in digitalization, automation, and electrification. And actually without losing the core and the backbone of the company, which actually manufacturing and service of mobile machinery for the mining industry. Take next. Our vision is dare to think new, and our mission is really to drive productivity and sustainability transformation in the industry. And it's really important to us to drive innovation, being in the forefront, and actually being a step ahead of our customers and other suppliers. The core values, I will not dwell deep into it, is innovation, commitment, and collaboration. Next. We are leaders in selected niches, and as you can see here, the two big for hard rock is mining on the left and in infrastructure on the right. So we are both in service, surface, underground and exploration. Same for civil engineering, where we also have a leg in the construction and recycling. And you see on the lower end of the picture here, service, spare parts, and consumables seem to be a small part, but that is an essential part of our business. We have a big global footprint where we service our customers. Next. So, as said, our ambition is to being the leading productivity and sustainability partner. We will do this by speed of innovation, fast to develop groundbreaking new ideas that are on the cutting edge of the industry. As said in the beginning, this solution already back in the days of the Swedish method, our ambition has been to be out close to customer and capture sort of what type of solutions we can bring to the market that actually will support the industry and our customers. It's pretty clear that we want to have passionate people, a dedicated and collaborative team, and we want to be the leaders in automation, digitalization, and electrification. That's really outspoken. So we want to drive that vision for the future. You can take next, if it's one more. You can see on this slide as well that we have a clear future, pointing out the future for us. So if you see, we are already in today and tomorrow somewhat, you can say. But in the future, we truly believe that underground mines need to be emission-free. It needs to be real-time autonomous mining and also artificial intelligence leg. I need to say as well that after the split, when we became Epiroc, as a company profile, even though we are in different parts of the business, Epiroc and Orica are almost equal in size. We have the same, almost the same global footprint, and we also have a clear goal driving innovation for the industry. So the similarities in the company was also a trigger for this collaboration. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks very much, Lars. If you have any questions, again, just drop them in. We're going to transition a little bit now, a bit more of a panel style discussion around. So we have two companies that have quite a good presence and service and to the mining industry. And there was a number of things that are worthy to point out. And we'll go through a few of them. But Ben, do you want to jump in here and take us through some of these topics together with Lars?
Sure. Okay, so I guess when we look at the global mining industry, we see some trends over time, and what we're seeing, over recent years is that we've done a pretty good job of exploiting a number of our high grade and really healthy deposits around the world. Naturally, we continue to explore and find more, but what we do see is that in general, mines are becoming deeper and they're becoming larger, and a lot of that is related to the extension of historic ore bodies that we're previously mining, and as technology has advanced, we're able to go deeper more economically. But the other side of it is that the resources that are available to us to continue exploiting are changing. As we get deeper and as we get larger, a number of things change, and we're seeing block cave mining and sub-level cave mining becoming more, I guess a more feasible option in terms of a really economic style of mining. We see, lower grades, higher cost at depth. We're seeing increased stress as a result of working around large voids that we've created through mining. We see, different conditions as a result of that. And the depth of mining is a real key driver as to the case for automation, I suppose, in that we see more challenging rock conditions. We're seeing, seismicity and rock burst being very common in a lot of operations around the world. And naturally, as we get deeper and the size of our ore bodies or the size of our mining operations increases, we certainly see more challenges related to resources required to adequately ventilate a mine and that sort of stuff as well. So the environment's changing along the way. What that means is there's some impacts to how we are able to mine with the traditional sort of mining methods and the systems that we have available to us. And that's driving a need to go and innovate and find new ways of enabling us to continue operations in those challenging areas. Might go to the next one, Nick.
Yeah, just while we're here, Lars, did you find anything, once you saw that Orica had this wireless initiator, was it something in the mining industry that you saw or a request from customers at this stage?
Actually, a lot of customers around the world has been asking for a solution in this area for many years, actually, to be honest. And today, with the increased depth, as mentioned here, the safety, almost every company in the world today have a zero incident target. At the same time, the only thing in deep mine today is charging, which is not even mechanized. And the exposure is a bit ridiculous because we take people outside the cab and place them in close to the face, which is in many cases a high stress area with no rock reinforcement. We can also see that if we talk about this slide, the sustainability, today we talk a lot about sustainability. What is it really? I think the industry will go in that direction no matter what. So the ore itself will be classified as green or not, which will have an impact on future business, I believe. Yeah.
I think one of the examples that we saw as well in the early days is mines that require exclusion zones during seismic activity. So we can see, especially in the very deep mines under the Andes, in Chile, you can see circumstances where after a blast, it can take between a day and up to a week for seismic activity to come back to a level of stability to be able to send people back in on foot. And I think that's where we see probably the reference there around new activities and standards to manage the safety risk. I think mines are certainly putting huge amounts of effort into manage safety, but that comes with it's very complicated and takes a long time and a high cost to be able to mine those ore bodies now as well.
You can also say that we see on a global basis a lot of customers today starting to do rock reinforcement of the face, which is waste, because you blast it out a couple of hours later and muck out all this steel that has been installed. And now with the digitalization, mines are going to get more transparent, and that will reveal sort of where bottlenecks are in the system and so on. So I think we need to figure out smarter ways to not work smarter and not harder in the future, I would say.
Yeah, it's a nice segue into this one. Do you want to talk to this one, Lars? What, with all those challenges, what are the core desires you think are coming out?
Sorry, what did you say?
What do you think the core needs, or if you could talk to this one, the trends? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We can skip the first bit since we have talked about that already. Deeper mining is also a cost driver for a customer, and that no matter if the mine is on the same level, not even growing at depth, you still have a cost increase for a mine, roughly 2 to 3% a year. So first step is to sort of prevent that, and the second step is to sort of figure out smarter ways to do it, so to say. So I think cost for a miner is essential, since the income is driven by metal prices, which is out of control for a miner. So it's the biggest parameter you can control. And I still see, a main part of my role in the company is actually to sort of break it down to cost per ton basis and stop sub-optimizing and look at price of single items. And I think that journey has been going on for several years, but I think it will grow even further in the future. The appetite for technology today is much higher than it was like 10 years ago. So as I say here, to prevent increased cost and so on, it's about sort of figure out smarter ways to work with technology, and also increase utilization of everything, basically people, faces and machinery. So we see very often today that rock reinforcement is the bottleneck in many mines. And to increase the bottleneck, that lower your utilization, so to say.
Yeah.
I think we have a fair bit of, I guess, collaboration with operations globally, very frequently, really, and between, often together with the guys at Epiroc. And what we see is that the vast majority of miners or operators have a 5 to 10 year technology roadmap, and they seem to all stem from the same point, being the first step is either remove people from the face or remove people from the brow of a void. So the desire is fairly common across the industry, and that there's a real need to close that final step, particularly in the development cycle, where we haven't seen the ability to remove people away from the face. Yeah, great segue. And then, it transitions then into, right, what do we do next? It's not just remove people from that individual area, it turns into tele-remote operations and surface remote operations and down the line. But the face is one that's plagued us, I suppose, as an industry for a long time, in that we're kind of forced, as a result of the systems we have available to us, to go and put controls in place to protect people that are, time consuming. They're costly, and often they're ineffective, and we demonstrate that because people continue to get hurt. So there needs to be a better way, I suppose, of taking technology that's now available to us and converting those into solutions that are actually useful, and then closing that loop and building that next step into the, or building that first step, I suppose, on that technology roadmap so that we can continue down the line. Development is an obvious example in that we do things like meshing and bolting of faces, as Lars mentioned, and it is very expensive and it takes a lot of time. And when a face drilling jumbo is sitting there scaling a face and putting bolts and mesh in when it could be elsewhere, preparing the next cut to be blasted and drilling that out, it's a very expensive operation, not only in use of consumables that at the end of the shift we go and blow up, but in the opportunity cost and lost time of what a jumbo could be doing elsewhere more productively. So it's a need that we saw in the industry really early on, and something that we have been on a bit of journey on, I suppose, in terms of getting to where we are today.
Yeah, thanks. I think this was this really hit home with me when I started working on this project around, we've got very, world-class first-tier mining organizations, and we still see injuries and incidents, and it's really, at the face. And as you can see, what they're trying to do there in tying detonator leads together, it's extremely complicated to try and automate something like that. And then when we saw this challenge, combine it with some of our wireless technology, it's when it really, I think, sparked a moment for us when we saw this opportunity. I also dropped in this slide as well. Newcrest, I don't want to understate their support in this as well, actually, because they certainly talked us through to understand the challenge from truly the miner's perspective as well. And they have a great ambition, especially at their underground operations, to remove people from hazardous areas. And they have a nil on foot initiative. And they went through and did a time and motion study of all of the individuals that were in this risk or hazardous zone. And as you can see from the picture beforehand, the people are pretty much standing in that red zone. And there's a lot of activity that are done by various points along the map. And that's and on that scale is the number of minutes that our people are exposed to in that area. So it was a really also helped structure the problem for us, as well as helping us understand the environment that we were going into as well. But this was really great. And what we then started to have a look at when we jointly looked at this with Epiroc is how many of these activities we might be able to remove exposure. And we didn't just stop there. We're also quite keen on continuing to work with Newcrest and others on how to get rid of all of those other things. Some of them aren't part of the specific products, but we really like to look at the challenge from this collaboration perspective around, what is the miner and the operational challenge require, what can we do, and then what can we support to actually solve the complete problem. Lars, Camilla, anything you wanted to add into this, consistent with what you saw in other places?
No, we see a similar problem for many mines around the world. I think Newcrest is really good at expressing the need in these slides. So not much more to add. I think also Newcrest, they have panned out a quite clear vision of where they want to go. And of course, it's many companies that have that, but sometimes my feeling is that the vision and ambition are on a rather high level, but Newcrest has really boiled it down to the essential parts. So it's pretty easy to grasp for companies like Orica and Epiroc, I would say.
Yeah. So again, I might just pause there for a moment. If there are any questions around the general observations around the industry, we were going to transition a little bit here more into the case study of than the products that we thought we'd pulled together and what we actually came up with. But again, drop a text in there in the chat, or feel free to jump in and ask a question. And I'll move on to here. I think this is something that would be really good. Camilla, if you wanted to talk to, you can probably see more of what's happening in the actual cycle than many, but certainly helps paint the picture.
Yeah, of course. We see today that we have mechanized solution in the whole cycle, more or less, but we have a big gap when it comes to charging. And those mechanized solution is something that provides the customer with productivity, safety, and reliability. So for sure, this is a real game changer that we can fill this gap now with a new charging unit.
This, I think this is a bit of a flashback on some of the stuff that Orica at least have had some experience in, and you can see from the picture in the middle down the bottom, or the bottom left image, you can tell how old that image is by the type of screen that's sitting there in the keyboard. But I think that was in the mid to late 2000s. So there was a initiative around trying to automate and using quite advanced technology back then. I mean, they were using LiDAR, and there was a group called the CSIRO who were involved in the project around interpreting LiDAR scans into hole identification. There was, a lot of successes that they had with this, but naturally, the trying to handle of the leads was essentially what brought it undone. It was not really got to a point that it was commercially scalable or viable, given the challenge of handling wireless leads in an underground mining environment. It then went through various iterations over time. I think WebGen it certainly sparked off the interest around, solving these safety challenges for Orica. There was a number of goes or small prototypes, and we recognized that we probably didn't have everything that we needed to be able to pull this off. And that's where we got together with Epiroc. And I'm just going to fast forward to where we actually got to, and then we'll work backwards again. But we'll just make sure this works. And this is where someone warned me about, if it's got sound, it may not come through.
We're not getting any sound there, Nick.
Hi, Nick. Could you reshare your screen again? When you share your screen, there's an option at the bottom, say play computer sound. So you will pick up your sound from your video.
Sorry. Sound not coming through?
No, just restart your sharing, Nick. If you unshare your screen and then share again, and check the box that says.
Yeah. So you share your screen again, and when you select the screen that you would like to share, at the bottom, there's an option of play computer sound.
Let's try this. Give thumbs up if it's working.
Yep, we can hear it.
This is a game changer. There's no other product in the world like this.
With this partnership, we are developing a superior system together and combines the individual tasks of drilling, charging, and blasting into one seamless process.
Avatel is that next step change. It's the last part of the cycle that's yet to be mechanised and automated, and we're bringing that to the industry. We partnered with Epiroc to co-design and build Avatel, combining the most sophisticated development charging solution on the market with the proven reliability and performance of Epiroc's face drilling fleet. We combined that with Orica's expertise in the same fields, along with our ability to develop new technologies and innovations around drill and blast to bring this great innovation to life.
This is a really exciting collaboration that we have with Orica. It is a vital part of both our visions in making mining operations as safe, productive and cost-efficient as possible.
This solution will not only provide a step change in safety for underground personnel, making those inherent risks associated with traditional methods a thing of the past.
So by combining our strengths, we are now able to deliver exactly what the industry and our customer have been seeking. We both share a vision of creating safer and more productive mining operations for the industry.
Okay. So that was a bit of a, we flash forward a little bit there in the story. I think that okay, we back?
We're back. Well done.
Awesome. All right. So we flash forward a little bit to see what we came out with. That video was launched in around late November, December last year. So it's moved on a little bit even since then, which we can go through as well. But we'll talk through a little bit around what did it take to actually bring quite a sophisticated piece of equipment that incorporated quite a lot of people to bring together, and some of the challenges that we saw and some opportunities that have actually come together as far as doing it as a collaboration goes. So this is not just a few engineers sitting in a room with some bolt-on technology. It actually took quite a lot of people and depth within both organizations to pull together, everyone from software developers to structural engineers with Epiroc, and we have detonation physicists in Orica, as well as regional people from around the world with regulatory connections, all got involved in understanding the challenge of moving from the image on the left there to the image on the right. So it was a huge input from quite a lot of people. To give you an idea, we have a software team here in Australia who was developing a good part of the Orica software component for this in Australia. There was people working on how our detonators get programmed in Canada. We had a lot of the structural design and ergonomics being done in Denver, and they all had to work pretty seamlessly with quite a detailed team in Epiroc as well. So creating those touch points was quite a big effort from both sides. But Camilla, you saw this from the Swedish side as well. Do you want to comment or thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can start to say that I've been involved in joint development projects before, but it has been mainly with the end customers. It's a very different challenge to develop a completely new machine together with another OEM. And it has worked really good, actually. So we have followed our internal processes, but at the same time, we've been able to adapt to Orica's processes. And then we have met in the middle by jointly created a method where we actually could cooperate in a really good way. So from the time where we actually get an approval from our stakeholders, we have within 1.5 years been able to put together a dedicated team from Sweden. We are at least 70 people involved in this project from different areas within the company. And then we have developed and assembled a machine that is actually in full testing as we speak. So I'm really proud of what both company teams has achieved actually in that short time, and their commitment and engagement has been outstanding. We have 4 different time zones to consider as well, and the people has been working late nights and early mornings. So yeah.
I think to add to the mix, the environment around the last 12 months has really made things quite a challenge and really made us pivot, I suppose, in the way we do things. You know, right now we're doing some pretty amazing stuff over in Sweden, and our team in Denver are still in Denver, and they're the guys that designed a lot of the subsystem that bolted onto the machine and integrated with the Epiroc unit. And they would love to be over there right now and helping assemble and all that sort of stuff. But you know, we're doing pretty much what we're doing now. We're working over Teams and AR and VR and doing all sorts of things just to get through it. So it is a really impressive feat that's, you know, taken place here in a really short space of time too. It shouldn't be understated how advanced this project is and how technically complex the product is as well. It's not as simple as just putting a wireless detonator in a hole. There's a lot that goes into, you know, making this reliable and scalable and sustainable.
I think we should mention as well that we have done this in a quite awkward situation around the globe with COVID and so. And I think that both project teams and the corporation has been able to navigate quite well despite the situation we have in the world today.
Yep,
yeah,
definitely.
So when let me throw a question to you, Camilla. You know, it's to look at this in people who are familiar with Epiroc equipment. You know, you can see that it's certainly based on Epiroc's base carrier. It looks, you know, quite simply, is it just a few things that are bolted on? You know, with this, you know, just how integrated is it?
Yeah, we have actually, you can think that it's quite easy just to take one of our carriers, but it's not really that easy. We have actually used one of our medium-sized carrier, the Boomer M2C. We have kept the robust design of the carrier, but then we have redesigned the machine to fit all Orica's components actually. And we have and also the WebGen shuttling system. It's a completely new feed design with a new shuttling system for the WebGens. We have updated the systems, the hydraulic systems, to be able to feed all the new consumers that comes with Orica's equipment. And it's also a lot of components that we have moved around to be able to fit those things and optimize our system to be able to communicate with the Orica system. So yeah, the engineers on our side and on Orica side has worked very, very well on this and put a lot of effort to make this happen.
Camilla, would you comment on what that means in terms of you know, how do you redesign and build a unit? For Epiroc, you guys are manufacturing, you know, hundreds of machines a year.
Yeah.
To go and redesign an existing platform is probably no small feat, right? How does that change the way that you guys have to approach manufacture if you go and make a substantial change to existing, you know, part of the equipment fleet?
Yeah, first of all, we have put together competences within all areas actually, both within all different systems, carrier designs and everything. We have put together them And they have been sitting very close to each other to discuss how we can adapt to this and what we can do to reach the goal. And at the same time, we have had very close contact with Orica, with you guys, on a more or less daily basis to be able to get there we are today. And of course, we wanted to keep as much commonality as possible with our other equipment, just to make it easier for sourcing and in the production as well afterwards. So
reliability, well, yeah.
Reliability, of course, and maintenance and everything around that. So we have kept all the good stuff and we have adapted to the great new stuff.
Yeah. I think what was really clear in the early days is that this wasn't going to be simple and needed to be fairly integrated. And I think that could definitely throw off the idea of collaboration. Like, it was a bit of a scary thought. And I remember speaking with Lars a few years ago around how do we actually pull this off? How do we actually have, it's hard enough to get engineering teams in product development to focus on what that end vision or product might look like. Doing it across multiple companies in 4 different time zones is a whole nother level of complexity. So, if I took anything away from that and was going to say anything about collaboration, is that one of the critical things that, you really need to do is make a team feel like they have one goal, and that is, what does the end look like? And bringing the team together, you can almost hardly tell, which parts or which organizations they come from. The pictures on the left here are from a lot of a get together where they risk assess the whole process. So in there you can see WebGen specialists and a number of specialists from Epiroc getting together in Denver. It was obviously pre-COVID and post-COVID, where we had anticipated a lot of engineers going across the pond both ways. Instead, everything was, dislocated manufacturing and freighting and a lot of time in the virtual, collaboration as well, which it was a recipe and it could have easily gone wrong, I think. So it was a lot of credit, and a lot of the way that the approach and culture on both sides, you really need to be able to make sure you have this end vision of what you're trying to solve. And I think that was helped to paint by, Newcrest and other miners that we spoke to as well, around making sure that, what our end solution needed to look like for it to work in the market. Is that ring true?
We've got a few questions there actually that we might want to cover off while we're sitting here. Firstly, well, there's a question there that we see very often. Do we have a plan to develop the unit for underground production? And the answer is probably maybe. I guess, of course, it's in our roadmap. The important thing for us is probably to go and address not necessarily the most challenging, but the most needed scenario for the industry. So that's why we've tackled development first. It is where we see consistently the most number of incidents or near misses at the face. It's certainly still one of the highest risk areas of mining that hasn't been tackled yet, and that's our goal, is to first cover that off. So yes, but not yet. We'll get this one right first, and we really want to make sure that we can do this reliably and perform well before we go and tackle another project like that, for sure. A question from Phil. Good, a couple actually from Phil. So firstly, how long has it been going and where are we up to? We'll probably show you that very soon actually, but Rick, do you want to comment on how long we've been going and what's been happening?
I remember, I think it was around Easter 2 years ago when we had the kickoff. When we really, it was early days. It was around Easter time when that was the first time we probably really considered getting together with a bunch of technical people and end user SMEs, let's say, our tech services and people like that. we said, do you really think that we can do this, and what would it look like? And it was meant to be everything's on the table. It didn't have to be necessarily what it looked like today. Certainly there was no vision of that. So it was really, we had pictures like this. This is our challenge team. This is where we don't want people to be anymore. And we want to use, essentially a very technical way of looking at it. We want to use better engineering controls. We want to move people away from that. So we started, essentially, that was the scope. That was probably about Easter, this time, maybe 2 years ago. I think that's right about Lars.
Yeah, correct.
Something like that. And I think, there was a lot of discussion around then, that I'm not going to underestimate the level of internal lobbying you have to do inside of a large organization to get a project established. This was just the very first exploratory meetings that we had. It was probably 2 years ago.
I think we need to mention as well, if we go back to the team collaboration here, I think one essential part that I have seen watching these teams a bit from the side is that I think each individual company has been quite humble to the other companies' competence, knowledge, and actually structure as well. Because if you don't respect the other company, so to say, you will run into some problems. But we have really tried to cooperate in that manner that each individual company brings their core knowledge and competence together and work from there, because also it has been open to sort of receive good input from the other side, but the decision making has been sort of within each individual company. And sometimes we take these things for granted, so to say, but it really requires an open climate and a good working atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Lars. Actually, the project managers, we have a technical project manager. You can see him in the orange in the top right-hand corner. I think he was, led the technical project on our side. He's based in Denver. We also had, Sarah, who's hidden in the top left-hand corner up there. And the way that they certainly approached collaboration really needed to be, a strong amount of respect and also, a coordinated approach to what successful looks like. And you want to make the other team as successful as you do. And I think that was also that critical goal too. They really made, I think, everyone involved feel like it was one project, one team. So, yeah, absolutely. Any other questions there?
Probably to, I guess, continue that discussion, and a follow-up question from Phil is the collaboration, both engineering and commercial, go to market? Or will Orica and Epiroc sell its parts separately? So maybe a quick discussion, Nick, from you on, I guess it's pretty clear that it's a joint engineering effort, but how does this work in terms of partnering from a business perspective?
Yeah.
And what have we done to make that, I guess, amicable and seamless and in the best interest of the project, as opposed to in the best interest of either business?
Yeah, certainly we're getting into some commercial detail, but I'll give you the rough element. I mean, you needed to make the commercially success rewarded on both sides. Yeah, and that took quite a lot of discussions around how do we make two companies put in a feeling of equal risk, equal investment, and equal reward, or a commensurate reward. So yeah, there is a longer term as this comes to market. No, that it won't go to separately. It'll go as a single channel, and Epiroc and Orica work out how that's resolved in the back end. But essentially, it's a single product, a single service being offered into the mining industry, not something that's sold separately.
Yeah, I think which is a really important element of sustainable implementation, and making sure that when it actually gets to site, that both businesses are still heavily invested and want to see it succeed over time. A couple more. One really quickly, I can probably cover off. What about open pit blast automation? What's happening there? Look, yes, absolutely. It's part of what we are aiming to achieve over time. Is enter more into automation in the surface market. Probably not something we want to cover off today. It's certainly not something that we are in any sort of collaboration with Epiroc with at this stage. But who's to say where this might transition after Avatel goes so well. And a last question here from Neil around corporate partnerships, I suppose, and what's the future look like for this partnership? Will it remain as two discrete businesses operating and staying in the partnerships as it is today, or is there a plan to turn that into something new and exciting? And do we have a plan to merge with our partners and integrate with them so that we can continue rolling out different AI services and technologies over time?
Good question. I think there's something to say around. I think this is a brilliant project, but Orica and Epiroc are working to make more of these. We're looking to do collaborations in various forms in both the digital space and as well as in the mechanical and automation. I think this one has been, a really great standout, probably because of what the impact it can do to the industry, but then also the approach, the speed that it's been able to put together with the teams. It certainly, makes you think, oh, what could be next? Absolutely. I think we're still at the really early days of bringing this to the market, but who knows? I don't think there's anything written in stone, but we're excited. I think in the next phase, we have a pretty clear idea on how we start to bring this and offer it into the market, and then how it evolves from there. We'll either structurally stay the same, but the technology may change, or we may do another project. Who knows? Lars, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that from a customer perspective and through a customer eyes, drilling and blasting is one united process. It's not two separate things. And looking at the industry and the long industry knowledge we have back to 1873, it's quite amazing that no one has sort of started to discuss how to optimize drill and blast together and merge them in as one united. And if you zoom out even further, for mining, the whole mining operation is a process, and drilling the holes and filling it with explosive is the first thing you do, actually. And that sets the scene for the rest to come. So if you blast hard with deviation on holes and so on, you need to compensate that with other things like rock reinforcement, shotcrete, mesh, bolts. That is only cost for a customer. So I think we need to come to a space where we collaborate even more in this space. But as companies, we have said, let's start here and make this project successful. For sure, it has been a lot of discussions on how we can bring it further and so on. And I'm pretty sure we will.
And I think maybe to extend on that is it's equally important that that collaboration extends to industry partners as well. So mining operations around the world have really unique needs and different challenges that they're working through. And, as suppliers and OEMs, we only know what we get from the industry, I suppose, and we can do as much research as we can on Google. But at the end of the day, the real meat comes from talking to the industry, and then when we identify a problem together, working with them to actually go about solving it with industry partners. And I think the work that we've done with Newcrest as an early partner in this project has been really fundamental to seeing it succeed, not only in showing that we're actually building something that a customer wants, but actually helping us define what are those key metrics that we need to actually achieve in terms of performance and reliability to not only solve that safety case, but actually make it a productive product as well. That adds economic benefit to a mine outside of just that safety benefit. And what it also allows us to do is, I guess, shift the view or shift the thinking of the industry to a degree in terms of not necessarily focusing on a discrete task. You know, there's often the question about how quickly can we charge a face compared to a traditional method and that sort of stuff. And it's you know, the reality is with something this complex, it's probably going to be a little slower than doing it traditionally. But in the process, we are alleviating a whole host of other problems that have been challenges for a very long time. And so taking that wider view and understanding, right, what else does this unlock for us is really important. And the best way for us to understand that and design to it is for the industry to jump on board and actually, you know, help us out as suppliers to actually build the right products.
Yeah, I've been in product development for some time, and I don't think it matters whether it's apps or software or mechanical systems, but it's really easy to make a product that doesn't solve anybody's problem. So actually, you know, having miners and customers really involved in this early innovation process is really key. It sometimes there's a tendency or a culture to think that OEMs, you know, don't let them know too much, but the more that you can get them involved in actually understanding the problem and being part of, you know, a collaboration truly is my sense of, you know, actually an open, honest understanding around what the problem is and get everyone with the same focus on solving it. That then is this recipe for actually creating, you know, real and feasible and productive solutions.
And it probably validates us as well in terms of it validates that what we're doing has a future. So we will continue to push for, you know, success internally as well. It's pretty easy to, you know, ask, I suppose, for a solution and you know, not invest in it. So I think over time, the more industry partners that want to jump on board as early adopters, the better position we'll be in to continue to accelerate and move faster. And I mean, this is an example of a project that's moved really fast considering the complexity. We can continue doing that, and we can continue doing it even faster if we get the right miners on board at that early stage as well to help see us through.
So some curiosity might be out there. I mean, these were photos that were quite around late last year, early this year, maybe. Camilla, do you want to talk us through maybe the next two slides around, you know, how did it come together? And then we'll do a quick, you know, where is it now?
Yeah, absolutely. This picture was actually taken end of last year in our workshop in Örebro. And it's the final assembly ongoing, and they have already started to do some tests on the machine to make sure that we get the communication right between the two systems. And on the picture in the right lower right corner, you can see both our panels next to each other. So we have our RCS panel to the left and Orica's load plus panel to the right. And that means that the operator that is in the cabin can actually move in between. So you're actually using Epiroc's panel when you are tramming and when you are positioning all the booms and everything. And then you move over to Orica's panel when it's time to start to charge the machine. So we have worked a lot with the communication between those two systems. You can take the next slide, actually. And this picture was taken last week down in one of our test mines outside Örebro. It's Kvarntorp. So we have spent 3 to 4 weeks down there and testing all the functionalities. And we basically need to make sure that the machine works as we want it to work before we bring it out on the market. So we need to make sure that we fulfill all requirements and that we have a safe, productive, and reliable solution. And this is extremely important. So we also need to make sure that we fulfill all the legal requirements, such as stability, sound, noise, vibrations. We need to have certifications on most of all the systems in place as well. So during our tests, both underground here in the test mine and also on surface, we actually need to go through basically everything, and from point one to the end, to make sure that we have all these functions in place and it's a reliable and safe solution.
Maybe we can add as well that we had customer requests if we could build this on our own, actually Epiroc, but without Orica's core knowledge in explosives and detonators, we would never have been able to take this step, especially due to safety regulations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think likewise. It was certainly recognition. We tried, but no, there's too much. And actually, when you saw the teams get together around various pieces of technology that they could replicate quite quickly, you know, it's a rebuilt bottom up thinking around how all this stuff comes together. So I think it's been quite solid. Any surprises, you know, during the testing, Camilla? It wasn't all smooth traveling, was it?
Actually, that's as in all development projects, of course, you have the things that you see during testing that you need to change or adjust and tweak a little bit to get it even better. And so far, we have found some things, but I must say that no major hiccups that we think that will be a game stopper. So the engineering here is working a lot and hard to resolve those problems that has appeared.
I think one of the biggest challenges we came across was a Windows update that played some havoc with the code and our operating systems for the controls inside the cab that took a couple of weeks to resolve.
Yeah, and actually that has also been a challenge due to COVID, but Orica, you managed to actually connect remotely. We put up a local Wi-Fi and you could connect and do some tele-remote programming and troubleshooting as well. And that has been really good cooperation.
Yeah, and that comes in, I think, there's a little bit around the why we're doing this, because I have noticed that, you know, building a team of multiple companies in multiple time zones, it does have quite a good initiative behind it, and we see a huge amount of ownership from the people who are working together in this. I know the driver and the engineer working on this at the moment has put an incredible amount of effort, as well as we've got, you know, people in Denver who now are working from midnight to 5 a.m. and then have a break while they're, you know, working connected to the machine. And then they talk to the Orica software people in Australia, you know, in the later hours in the morning, and then they sleep in the afternoon. So it's, you know, it's a necessity that was put on us from COVID, but it was quite impressive to see how quickly, you know, probably across the industry have adapted to situations like this as well. So what are we going to see next? If you're interested, Ben, do you want to quickly take us through what's the journey?
Yeah, sure. So that photo at the top, that's the unit you see there underground, previously rolling out of the factory back in the end of October last year. So that was when we sort of got to the back end of finalising the prototype. So that's all done. Now we've got a test plan that we'll run through for the rest of the year, which is, you know, built around verification and validation of not only the technology, but you know, validating that we are meeting the user needs specification that our customers and different mine sites need. So we'll continue. Actually, it's probably on the back of a truck right now, or might have just got off it. It's travelling up to Gyttorp, which is an Orica facility over there in Sweden, to have wet commissioning done on the explosives process body side of things, and then we'll send it back to Nacka, which is one of Epiroc's other mines up near Stockholm, where it'll continue doing more testing underground there in a controlled environment. Up to that point, it is really about understanding, you know, probably how well the discrete functions operate together, and getting some sort of performance metrics and understanding, you know, what sort of cycle times we might be looking at in a really controlled environment and that sort of stuff. But then we go into beta, which is probably more exciting to all of us. And in beta, we've partnered with an operating mine in Finland, and we will sort of sit the unit underground and embed it, I suppose, into the production cycle for a sort of 12 to 16 week program. And the expectation, I suppose, out of the back end of that set of trials is that we can meet the performance requirements and reliability requirements that we've set ourselves, and keep up with the development cycle. In the meantime, we're building the first commercial unit in parallel, which I guess maybe would be sort of seen as a bit non-conventional in terms of going and building commercial units before they're ready or before testing's complete. But we're pretty confident we can do that without adding any significant risk. We'll order and build all of the low risk and long lead time items on the machine that are really unlikely to change as a result of anything we might pick up through our trials. And then we've put some time aside at the back end before that unit hits its straps in Australia to go and make any modifications that might be required. And then Cadia, so Newcrest Cadia Valley Ops over here in New South Wales have taken delivery of the first unit, hopefully the beginning of next year, all going well, and we'll be into it from there. So I guess that would make it, 2.5 years from inception through to putting explosives in a hole in an underground mine in probably one of the most technically advanced charging systems that's hit the industry for ever, I'd suggest. So it's pretty impressive. There's a couple of questions around that that have come through in the chat actually that we might cover off while we're going. A question from Jade around timeline in years to put into our own mine site roadmaps. Well, you can put it into your roadmap right now, Jade. It exists. It's not a CAD drawing and an animation. This is a real machine that we intend on having around the globe very soon. And in terms of, I suppose there's a question there around how do we build it in as a standard efficiency, or how do we compare it to, business as usual traditional systems we've got there now. I mean, the expectation from us is that we can keep up effectively. So cycle time, individually may be a little slow, we expect, but the expectation from us is that we can use this machine in any environment and keep up with our traditional requirements in terms of performance and productivity.
Yeah, as far as charging crews go, if you think about the schedule, the target was to be more or less 1-for-1 as far as a operational or utilization and efficiency in the mining operation.
Yep.
We skimmed over this, I think, a little bit. I think one of the biggest milestones for this whole development is in beta trials in Finland. And what we call beta trials is kind of like a beta release. It is exactly what we think it's going to be. We've tested it as much as we can in as many simulations as we can, and now it's time to put it in a real life operating mine with full live product, live initiation of a real heading in an operating mine. So that's in Finland, kicking off around September. That is big for us, but it's also big for a mine that we're working with. Camilla, I know that you use mines and do these types of testing, probably most recently with battery vehicles. How critical, we're talking about collaboration. It must be quite important that how do you work with our customers to make sure that they understand the process that this is going to go through?
Yeah, we have a good collaboration with Agnico in Finland. We have tested our battery equipment there, and we have a very competent team locally in Finland that is helping us with all the updates and everything that needs to be done. And they are down underground daily working with this equipment. And Agnico has been very good that they have, we have been able to jointly come together and develop this, and they have also been a very good support for us to give us feedback on the tests as well. So, and Agnico, this Kittilä mine is very close to Sweden, so it makes it also possible for our engineers to go there if needed. So it's a very good partner to partner up with during a critical test phase.
Thanks. There's a really good question here from Neil that is, I guess, really the topic of discussion around to what extent has this collaboration shortened our cycle in developing the product and the service? Are we taking just as long as a competitor who has no partnerships, or are we doing it quicker?
Well, I'll go first, Lars. I think there's two elements to that question. I think the first one is, I think we were playing around. We had started trying to do this maybe 10, 12 years ago and got nowhere. And I think there was an element of, I think we still might be doing concept work if we didn't join up with Epiroc. So how fast if we otherwise would have done it? I'm not sure we would have been able to at all, let alone how fast did we go? And then there's, okay, so now you kick it off. Let's say you did have it. Yeah, it shouldn't be underestimated. You know, collaborations and working with other companies can be really complex. You know, they have different motivators, potentially different business models, and how well they align. And during development, things naturally change. So how do you work through that? So it's not without its challenges, but I think when you get a very good understanding of what the industry needs, the miners that actually play a role in helping to educate both sides, that is something that really needs to be solved and has a somewhat of a feasible and a viable model coming out the other end. That definitely crystallizes the vision, and then it goes very fast. When you have the right capabilities, you get them, mix them together, then it works much faster than I think we would have otherwise been able to.
Maybe I can continue. I think as a company, Epiroc, it's pretty outspoken that we want to collaborate with partners. We know by fact that the majority of our customers, they want to work with best in breeds in the business. And for us to go in with solutions in areas where we don't have our core competence, we will most probably fail. So, and we also are humble for the fact that a lot of mining companies already have started a journey of integrating systems and working with mine planning softwares and other stuff. Also, like contract liabilities to explosive suppliers and other vendors. So we are trying to adapt to the actual situation. And I think that has supported us fairly well, that we don't have the ambition to sort of be the company that takes over your mine and runs it all, so to say. So it has opened really a field of collaboration for us seeking partners. And as said, for this specific project, I think we could never have done this on our own, especially with the lack of knowledge about explosive safety regulations around that and so on, that Orica, you have a well-functional system around that, so we could lean on you in that.
Yeah,
it's a good question, and it's probably exposed a pretty simple answer in that without collaboration and without this partnership, this technology or this solution and many others just may not ever come to fruition. So it's a necessary part of you know, innovation that we bring together OEMs and suppliers and operators that are, you know, experts in their field. Okay, I don't know if we've got any other thing to cover off. Are we going to be available in both diesel and battery? Yep, potentially there's a battery option down the line. The Epiroc guys are really heavily on the battery electric journey, and certainly forms part of their plans for sure. When we'll be able to operate from the surface? Big question, don't know, very difficult to answer at this stage. Let's concentrate on making this product as reliable and I guess productive as it can be for now, and we'll probably explore that down the line. Any comment from you guys on where that sits? I suppose the concept of remote operations relative to this project or others that we've got going on.
It's a good and natural question, and it has a few different ways that it pops up. Will you go remote control? Will you, can you make it go faster? Can you put 3 booms on there? Can you make it drill and charge? Can you make it remote? I think there's an awesome amount of opportunity once we nail this bit. So the white space and where we can evolve into can either be remote control, operate from the surface, or it could be, a drill and charge machine. I think what we are quite aligned with is that we had to solve this problem. And where we go to next is really going to be led by our customers and the minds in which we operate in. And they will drive the next user needs spec of where we go and how we evolve. And it could be more remote, it could be faster, it could be a slightly different machine, it could be production. So it's about, we've identified some really core needs, and this gets us out. But it will be the foundation of what we base all of those other potential variants in the future. But at the moment, they're all kind of like thoughts and opportunities. There's a big whiteboard there with all these ideas, and there's certainly quite a lot about combining, probably in the early stages even, combining it around optimized blasts. So there is a lot of opportunity around how do you optimize the development heading to reduce overbreak, underbreak, get better round advance. These are things that are, we've known are challenges and opportunities for cost saving for quite a long time. But now that you're automating it, what new tool does that give you? You've got electronic blasting, you can modify the energy in every hole. With some intelligence, does that change the game? And that's certainly something that we're playing around with quite seriously. And then we combine that with some fairly good scanning technology to validate whatever we're doing to continuously improve. That is absolutely, one of the first things that we'll be checking out.
But it's still one thing here yet to be proven, and that is how the market will approach this and accept it, because of course it's a business case behind this that need to be fulfilled. So it's yet to be seen then how many of these units will be sold in the future before we jump into a lot of other things. I think we could make that list of other areas: surface mining, teleremote automation, blah blah blah, batteries. But still, we are in this for the business as well, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. So that I think brings us to the end. So thank you very much for having us, and it's been a pleasure. Some really great questions that really brought up. If you want to know more about this particular product or the people, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I hope that was a useful workshop.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Lars and Camilla. So if you all have any questions that you like to connect with Nick, Lars, or Ben, or Camilla, feel free to put it down over the chat box, or you can also reach out to us that we can connect you to them as well. All right. So